Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Lollygaggers Dynasty Recap. I'm your host Zang, and I am joined once again by my intrepid co-host Ace. Ace, how you doing, man?
What's going on, guys? Doing good, sir. Doing good. Another
Good.
rough week for me in fantasy, but we'll get into it.
Yeah, I know. I have to say I was coming in pretty hot last week. The Red Sox had just scored a billion runs on the Cardinals, and I had scored the most runs in the league. I'm coming off a loss, and the Sox losing the series to the White Sox, so I'm a little more. My shoulders are a little lower this week.
Yeah, my Dodgers got absolutely clapped by the Cubs this
Tough weekend for the hosts,
yeah.
for sure. Chicago's just not being kind to us this time.
Not at all.
I don't know what's going on with that. We will get started off with our matchup minute. As we mentioned, our first one is the first one we started off with last week. That was Hideki versus Ace. The projections had Ace with about 65% over Hideki, but it was Hideki who took him down for 442 to 408.
Who knew that having two Angels players on your offense would actually prove to be the difference?
We got to talk about these Angels, man. They're becoming a problem. The Hideki strategy of drafting all Angels might finally be paying off for him.
Yeah, definitely. I can attest to that firsthand.
Next we've got Big Peach versus Serial Chillers. It was 58% of Serial Chillers over Big Peach. Now it did end up being the case. Chillers took him down.
This was a close
463
match.
To 454. Real close match.
9
there.
points.
Yeah, 9-point difference. And I noticed that's kind of a theme here. A lot of these are pretty close, except for the next one, which we'll talk about. But Peach
which one was that,
Chillers.
Zane?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll get there when it's time. You know, who's to say? This was kind of a cool one. It keeps Serial Chillers undefeated. He's currently our only 3-0 team. Speaking of teams that are no
you
longer
undefeated, though, Zane?
You know, I think I was. I'd have to check the notes, but yeah, I kind of got my my clock cleaned by both here. This one didn't have a projection coming in. It was because of some invalid lineup, so it was saying I had a 99% chance, which didn't seem right in the moment, and definitely doesn't seem right now. Bose took me down 483 to 330. Those interestingly were the highest and lowest scores of the week.
So justice was served, essentially.
No dispute. I really got kind of knocked down a peg there. This was in part my famous I forgot we had a cap on starts matchup, and
as did I.
Yeah, it started a lot of guys early, and then on Friday night found out I didn't have any more starters. So we'll touch on that a little bit more on the blunders later with kind of a new kind of blunder. Mike versus JMC was our next matchup. We had a 73% chance of Mike over JMC, and it did end up going that way, but it was quite a bit closer than I think it was projected. It was 458 for Mike to 425 for JMC.
That's a 30-point difference.
30-point difference. Yeah, it was, expected to be quite a bit bigger. So definitely interesting there. And then we had Oki versus Al Martinet. This was our closest projected matchup of last week. It was 52% of Al Martinet over Oki, and that did end up being the case. A little bit larger of a margin for this one, though. It was 470 to 437. So, what is that? 43-point margin? 33.
Yeah, very close games, minus the one. But,
yeah.
Very close games this week.
Hand up. I got I got demolished. And then Intent versus Flaming Prius was our last one. This was another one projected really close. It was 53% of Intent over Prius. And it did end up going that way. Intent got his first win, 431 to 405. So out of biggest surprises, what kind of stands out to you here?
Man, out of these, I mean, there was a lot of really close matchups, and like you said, a lot of the favorites did end up coming out on top. I mean, I think it has to be Hideki over me, man. I had a 65% chance going into this match, and a couple of rough starting pitcher outings. Didn't really net me too many points, and Hideki, we'll get to it with the best bats, but man, Mike Trout and at Paris guy, he's pretty good, huh?
Yeah, turns out Fishman might actually be good. I'm not sure.
Yeah, turns out. Who knew?
Yeah, this is a segment. No one wants to hear people talk about fantasy leagues they aren't in, but just a little anecdote. I run one with my family, and it's an 8-person league. Unbeknownst to us, Mike Trout fell to the last pick in the draft.
Wow.
for my dad, and we were all like, "Oh my god, we didn't even realize he was on there." So yeah, he's been definitely proving some people wrong this year, which is for the best. Mike Trout is good. Come on, we love when he's good.
Yeah, we love Mike Trout. We love to see him doing well. I think baseball is better when Mike Trout is playing well.
It definitely is. For me, the one that stood out was Peach versus Serial Chillers. That 9-point difference. I mean, Chillers is looking like an absolute juggernaut right now, and we'll get down to why some of those numbers were so high for Peach, but keeping it within 9 to currently the only undefeated team was definitely a standout for me.
Yeah, definitely a very close game there, and you really couldn't go wrong with any of these matchups. It was neck and neck pretty much all week, and I mean the final scores reflected it.
Yeah, something I love to see. I mean, the closer they are, the better. I know we were talking about going into Sunday. 4 out of the 6 were really could have kind of gone either way, so that was cool. We are, now that we're 3 weeks in and we've, kind of got a little bit more separation, we are going to start the standing segment where we'll just go over kind of the league standings. Just as a reminder, the tiebreakers are first, it's head-to-head against other teams you're tied with, so your head-to-head matchup against them. And then if those are tied, then it's total points for the season. In first place, our only undefeated team is Serial Chillers. Our next block are all 2-1. That would be Hideki in second place, Bose in third, Zang in fourth, and then Mike in fifth. And our final segment is those folks who are 1-2. So nobody winless anymore. That's good. We like to see that.
Yeah, I was just about to say, dang, nobody's got the donut anymore.
Yeah, they've all got one. First one's the hardest. For the 1 and 2 teams, we're starting with Big Peach at 6th, Ace at 7th, JMC at 8th. El Martinet is 9th. Flaming Prius is 10th. In 10 is 11th. Even though he's actually the lowest scorer, his head-to-head matchups help him out a little bit. And then Oki Sooners down there at 12th. And fortunately, it doesn't look like things are getting much easier for him with that Justin Steele injury. That was brutal.
Oh man,
it's real tough for the Cubs and for Mr. Sooner. Well, let's move on to our best bats. We're going to start off with one of your guys, James Wood. The first thing I want to ask, what happened to Caps Lock at MLB? What happened? That was one of the best clapbacks from an admin I've seen in a while. So I want to pull that out. James Wood had an unbelievable week, 49.4 points for my co-host Ace. Really, really strong stats throughout the week, but the highlight was, of course, that what happened to Caps Lock game. It was 22.3 versus the Dodgers on Tuesday afternoon. So
yeah, a bit of bittersweet on that one.
A little bit, yeah. It's always hard when it comes to fantasy.
Absolutely.
Our next one is Jung-Hoo Lee, who had 48.4 points. Slugger Jung-Hoo Lee, apparently. He tore up the Bronx this weekend. 13.9 on Friday and then 19.7 on Sunday for the grandson of the wind. I found out why he's called the grandson of the wind. Do you know that story?
I do not, so please tell it.
Absolutely. So his dad was a KBO star and was this like super fast, like flashy fielder and base runner, and so they called him the son of the wind. Won a bunch of MVPs, and then when Jung-Hoo Lee came in, they started calling him the grandson of the wind, which makes an awesome nickname even better.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's actually that's such a dope name. I want to actually share a little bit of tidbit of information behind Jung-Hoo Lee, dealing just strictly with our league. Now that it's kind of gone, and we'll get to the trades a little bit later. There was a trade in place, straight up Cody Bellinger for Jung-Hoo Lee, that I was potentially talking with the Big Peach behind the scenes, and I didn't end up pulling the trigger on it. I fell for Cody's early, I should say, just straight slugger in Yankees Park, and man, I'm regretting that one now.
Oof. Yeah, well,
I really wish I would have pulled the trigger on that one.
Speaking of which, Jung-Hoo Lee was owned by Big Peach for the week, and then is now one of my players, which I'm very excited about because I love the guy as a player, and clearly he's doing pretty well in fantasy. So the next one, I gotta say, I mean, nothing gets me fired up like a catcher that hits, and not hits for a catcher, but a catcher that hits. We got William Contreras. Put up 45.9 points for JMC. And this is one of those weeks I kind of talked about last week a little bit that just really fire me up. It's not, a big day that kind of fires everything along, and then just, mediocre there. It's just kind of strong throughout the week. It was, 10.2, 4.1, 4.6, 7.7, 9.3, just like really, really, really solid numbers throughout the week. And that puts him third on the best bats list. That's really pretty cool to see.
Yeah, that's honestly yeah, as a catcher, since they are very few to pick from especially in a dynasty league, it's really good to see when one of them has a great week. I unfortunately drafted the wrong Contreras brother, it looks like, and Wilson Contreras is still rotting away on on my bench. He had a great day today, today.
Yeah.
I unfortunately did not start him because I was not expecting a big day out of him today. But yeah, definitely good to see some catcher love here.
Good to see from him. I know it'll be interesting, in the next couple of years as we see the automatic strike zone come in a little bit. You wonder if they might start kind of prioritizing hitting for those guys, and be interesting to see how the catching position evolves.
Yeah, definitely excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, our next one is Jackson Chourio. He had 40.1 points also for Big Peach, and also now moving forward for me.
So, like, how much did you pay Big Peach in real life to put this trade through?
I was going to say there are going to be a lot of calls for collusion, but when you get slapped down by over 100 points, I think that I should be spared for the afternoon in collusion discussions. No, when we get around to it, I'll talk a little bit about it, because the process is definitely interesting as we're, looking at not just this year, but the future and all that. James C. and I were kind of joking around about that with his proposed Kumar Rocker for Wilmer Flores trade. But a couple big performances out of Chourio. They were both in Colorado, 12.5 and then 16.5 on Tuesday and Wednesday. Then he rounded out the week nicely on Saturday with a 10.1 at Arizona. So just a solid performance from the Brewers corner outfielder. And I mean, he's put up good numbers since the beginning of the year. I know the start last year was a little rough, and then, he kind of figured it out, and it seems like he's taken off since.
Yeah, definitely love to see that out of the youngster there. That was also similar kind of. I mean, a lot of these guys on this list, and we'll get to number 5 here in a minute, but a lot of these guys are pretty young stars here. James Wood, William Contreras, Jackson Chourio, Jung-Hoo Lee. I mean, in terms of MLB playing time, a lot of young stars here.
A lot of youth. Yeah, I don't know. I know Jung-Hoo Lee is 26, but I think he might be the oldest one on that list. So that's good to see, man. You love a young star.
That's crazy.
You love that. And then our last one, as we previewed a little bit earlier, was Kyron Paris. 38.6 points for Hideki. Back-to-back real big performances against Tampa Bay, 11.3 and then 15.6 on Tuesday and Wednesday, respectively. A really, really strong showing from the second baseman who, hand up, I did not have on my radar at all coming into the season. I wouldn't have known at all who he was. So it's really cool to see him, putting up these big numbers.
Hideki was all over that. And so, I mean, props to him, man. You can't help but just clap your hands. It was a nowhere pick. Like, nobody really thought much of it. And now here he is being a huge contributor.
It's good to see. Yeah. Well, which of these 5 do you see finishing highest on the year-end leaderboards in terms of points?
Man, I gotta go with Jung-Hoo Lee, man. He is just so much fun to watch, and I'm not even. I mean, I'm a Dodgers fan, for crying out loud, but just watching this guy play, I mean, you can't help but just root for him. He's just. I mean, yeah, obviously it's a little bit inflated this week because of the New York, stadium, as we all know and love.
He loved that short porch.
Yeah, loves that short porch. But I mean, he's just a solid hitter. He's not just a power hitter. So I mean, he can get you points in so many ways. I really like him moving forward. I would love to say James Wood, my own guy, but I think Jung-Hoo Lee is going to finish on top out of these 5 at least.
That's one of the things I love about Lee's profile. It's really like bat to ball contact oriented, which I find especially where we do kind of penalize strikeouts a little bit heavier with the 1.2. So it really just like, even if it's just those lower points, kind of consistently putting it up is great. For me, I'm going to go where you wouldn't. It's James Wood. I mean,
I hope.
Mercy, does that guy have power? I mean, the number of tweets I saw about his oppo power this week, and it just seems like it's clicked for him. It takes a couple years off and coming into MLB, but he looks totally locked in and obviously has the tools to make it happen. I think he's only 22 years old. I mean, this guy is young, and It looks to me in a Nats lineup with a little bit more protection, and just a little bit more experience in MLB under his belt. I think he's going to put up some pretty serious numbers.
Yeah, I really hope you're right. I mean, I don't want to say I took a big swing taking him kind of early in the draft, but obviously anytime you take somebody that young, it's always a bit of a risk. But,
yeah. No, I mean, after a tough rookie season too.
Yeah, exactly. Hoping for a big bounce back, especially with the Nationals. I mean, they haven't really been a great team since they won the World Series. Let's be real here. So to see him absolutely just mashing balls right now, I mean, I'm very happy, and I hope it continues.
It's good to see. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. I think he was in the return for the Soto trade.
Yes, actually, I think you might be right about that.
Yeah, so that's good to see. But you look back there, man. Washington did well between him and Gore, and like they CJ Abrams. They got some good pieces, as you should.
Yeah,
when you trade away Juan Soto.
Yeah, I mean they did it right. You take everybody and you win a World Series, and then it's like, okay, we got our ring. Everybody's happy now. Obviously, these guys want to get paid. Now let's ship them out. Let's see what we can get for him. Some young stars, and it's really panned out well so far for them. Love to see
Absolutely. It. Yeah. Well, we're gonna move on to our potent pitchers next. I'm actually gonna put the top one at the bottom because I'm gonna do a little trivia show for Ace here. But
okay.
We'll start off with Cole Reagans. He had 74.9 for Chillers. Obviously, really helped him in that tight matchup. So, all these points counted. It was 32.7 over 6 innings pitched, just 1 earned run, and 11 Ks versus Minnesota to start the week. And then 42.2 in 7.2 innings pitched, 1 earned run, and 10 Ks against Cleveland. He seems to be firing on all cylinders right now.
That 42 against Cleveland is absolutely just ridiculous. Forgetting the fact that Cleveland is such a hard team to strike out. That lineup in general is just so tough to strike out. Mm-hmm. That guy puts up 10 on them on 7 2/3 pitching. On a 1 earned run. That's just insane.
They work counts too. I mean, that team, plays good fundamental baseball. they
are a scrappy team.
Bats the ball. Yeah. So 10 Ks is damn impressive. And 7.2, being able to get late into the game like that is huge.
Yeah.
Michael King is our next one. He was a little bit of a quick riser. He had just 11.8 against the Athletics on Monday. That was in the sack, as we've been calling it, just for Big Peach here. But then as I was making my sheets this afternoon, I said, my goodness, what's Michael King doing here? Oh, 53.8 versus Colorado on Sunday. That was a complete game shutout, 8 Ks, and only allowed 2 hits. Damn impressive performance from Michael King there.
Now, it wasn't in Colorado, but very impressive still nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 53.8 that's
bonkers.
That's bonkers.
That might have been the highest. That might have been the highest points of a single game. Right?
I believe it was the single highest. Yeah, and as I said, we're gonna get to another guy who had 2 just unbelievable starts. But our next one is our next one would be Garrett Crochet if somebody hadn't run out of starts and only got points for his first one, but we'll move on from there. Crochet will be back. Hayden Wesneski for the Astros got 56.6 points for Flaming Prius. Pair of really nice starts, starting off with 29.4 in 7 innings pitched, 2 earned runs and 5 Ks versus Seattle. That was in T-Mobile Park. And then 27.2 over 6 innings pitched with 3 earned runs and 10 Ks against the Angels, who we get our jokes off. They've been red hot recently. So
no, yeah. I mean, all props to the Angels. I obviously poke fun at them being, the crosstown rival, but it's still obviously great to see them playing well, and I just hope it lasts. I feel like we've been here before. Likewise. A lot of times with some hot starts, and I for the sake of LA, I would love to see them do well as well.
Absolutely. And with Wesneski, he I believe, he was a free agent claim right at the beginning of the week for Prius. So that's a hell of a pickup.
What a pickup, yeah.
Grab him, I think, just before the first start, and then tuck both of those in. So he's a guy I could see staying on some rosters and really rising up the board. It sounds like he's got some pretty impressive stuff. Our next one was from Hideki. This was Kodai Senga, who had 54.4 points. Again, a couple of outings, 21 points on 5 shutout innings versus Miami. And then the one that really blew me away, 33.4 at the Athletics Park, at the SAC, in 7 shutout innings. I mean, yeah, just last week we were talking about how this place might be somewhere you can stream hitters because it's so, it's, you know, the balls are flying so hard. And then he puts out 7 shutout innings.
I mean, I guess in the counter to that would be if you're a ground ball pitcher like Senga is, you know, he's not very high on his K count, you know, 4 Ks in both starts. But, I mean, like you mentioned, 5 shutout innings, 7 shutout innings, he just does a great job of getting guys out, whether that's through, you know, through the air, on the ground, you know, a couple of strikeouts here and there. I think that's the kind of pitcher you're going to want to start most of the time you're in that athletics ballpark, you know, not a guy who's going to leave a lot of stuff over the plate just for some of these hitters to absolutely launch.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, it's time for trivia time. So my question for you, do you know who is currently leading the league in points? The entire player base, this person is leading. You can guess because it's in this segment. It is a pitcher. So I'll give you 3 guesses and a hint after each one.
All right. Well, I kind of had a guess early on. I wasn't sure if he even told me yes or no, but I know for a while Eovaldi was leading. I know he had a couple of rough starts now, so I'll say first guess Eovaldi.
It is not Eovaldi. Let's see. My first clue. This pitcher was tagged as a regression candidate because they had an extremely low BABIP last year.
I'm going to go with, oh man, that's tough. Is it, oh man, it's not a Cubs pitcher, is it?
It is not a Cubs pitcher. Right division though.
Ooh, right division. Okay. Damn, Cubs. Okay, so let me see here. Let me put on my little thinking cap here.
We gotta get some Jeopardy music for the background.
Some Jeopardy music here. Yeah, I mean that's. Oh man. You know what? Okay, so if I'm looking at the Cubs,
think 100 miles per hour.
100 miles per hour. Hunter Green?
Hunter Green
wow.
is leading the entire league in points. I will fully own up to being a Hunter Green denier. I did not think it was real. And I had to do like a double take and double check. Yeah, he is leading the entire league in points just this week. 84.5 points for Almar Net.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, really big season for him so far. He started off with 44.1 versus San Francisco. That was 8.2 shutout innings, 7 Ks. Then he followed up against Pittsburgh, 40.4 points, 7 shutout innings, and 8 Ks. Just dominating the league. And I can tell you, as somebody who watched that SF game, like, it looks real. It looks like he, kind of like we were talking about with Wood, he's found it.
I mean, man, that you just love to see that if you're a Cincy fan, because there was a lot of worry there with him last year. Obviously, he had the velo, but just giving up the long ball at such a high rate. I mean, but that is crazy. I was not expecting Hunter Green to be leading all of fantasy in points right now, because I was thinking of teams in the NL Central. I was like, I mean, Milwaukee, St. Louis, none of them really have like flamethrowers. Obviously Paul Skeens with the Pirates, but I'm like, he obviously had a great year last year.
Right,
that's crazy.
Yeah and I mean, I gotta give props to Almar Net. He took him in the 5th round with pick 7.
Wow,
that's
big swing that hit.
Big swing there, and clearly has paid off big time. Yeah. I mean, having an ace on your staff like that right now is just crazy. Yeah, he's got 135.6 points on the year already.
Insane.
Which is just nuts.
What a pull.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're gonna move down now to our bench blunders. Starting off on Tuesday, Mike unfortunately benched Brian Reynolds, who put up 14.6. And then to follow up his performance by 0.1 on Wednesday, he benched Perdomo, who put up 14.7. I do know I saw Perdomo kind of on the trading block, though. So keep an eye out if you're looking for a shortstop. I know we talked about him last week as somebody who might be able to, put up some pretty good numbers. Yeah. On Thursday, Al Martinet unfortunately sat Cam Smith, who put up 13.8. Tough start to the year for the greenie like Cam Smith, but he's I think starting to put it together a little bit, which is good to see. We're hoping, certainly. I like him a lot again. Returning that Kyle Tucker trade. So you always like to see it when those trades pay off, even if it's maybe for a team you're not such a big fan of.
Speaking of seeing trades pay off for teams that I'm not necessarily a fan of.
Yeah, kidding. Michael Bush, 22.2 points on Saturday. That was in that
Torched my
16-0.
Dodgers.
The highlights from that game were unbelievable. I mean, props to Miggy Rowe too with
yeah.
doing Yamamoto's pitching. That was pretty funny. I was saying to my fiance, who's a big Dodger fan, I was saying, hey, you're getting blown out 16-0. Have some fun,
Oh, absolutely.
Get after it. And then I'll take the L here. With my maxed out starts, I did not get Garrett Crochet's 8.1 no hit innings on Sunday. I will say, as soon as it started, I was like, oh my God, I'm out of starts. He's going to throw a perfect game. And he went perfect through 6 or 7. And then, of course, took the no-hitter in the 8th. Didn't quite finish it. But 43.8 points left on the table for me there.
Did he finish that game?
He did not finish the game. No, it got a little messy right after he left, but the Sox did pull it out. So woohoo, no sweep. That's what you should be thinking about White Sox series. Yeah, no sweep. But the silver lining there for me is that those 43 points would not have made a difference in my matchup. So
that's very true.
What can we do?
Well, it was a 150-point loss.
Yeah, something like that. So what's another 40? Wasted waivers is our next segment. Starting off with our pitchers, we had Matthew Liberatore, who had 45.8 points. Really solid outing for the starting pitcher. Then Kyle Hart had 34.2.
I think the craziest thing there is that Liberatore with 45.8 wouldn't have even cracked top 5 in potent pitchers.
Yeah,
that's how insane the pitching staffs were.
They've been going off for sure. Yeah, Liberatore, another big return. Wasn't he who came back for Rosarena, I think?
Yeah,
so that's
Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Nice to see him doing some good stuff for St. Louis. I could definitely see him. He had some pretty serious prospect pedigree, so it'd be good to see him kind of break out. And then Kyle Stowers had 26.9 for Miami, and Joey Ortiz was 24.9. Just keeping on that thing. Joey Ortiz came over for Corbin Burns. A lot of guys who were big trade returns kind of going off this week. It's nice to see.
Yeah, definitely love to see that. I mean, anytime you can see a trade happen and you look at both sides and see like, yeah, I think both sides won that trade. That's always a fun time.
Absolutely. Yeah. So out of these 4, who do you see as most likely to maybe be picked up and held on a roster next week?
Man, out of these 4, I'm really looking there at Joey Ortiz. Not gonna lie, I know there's a lot of infielders, but has that third base shortstop eligibility, and I know shortstop is a little bit kind of tricky sometimes here in this league. But I really think if he can put it together, that Brewers lineup obviously had a rough start to the year. But they've bounced back very nicely. They're 6-4 in their last 10 on a sitting at 500 at 8-8 in the division right now, tied with Cincinnati, who's also 8-8 and is also 6-4 in their last 10. Funny enough, but yeah, I think they can definitely pull it back together, and I think Joey Ortiz will be a big part of that.
Agreed. Yeah, Joey Ortiz has got a great profile. I really like him. For me, it's Liberatore. I'm always such a salivator for when one of those big prospects kind of put something together, and he was pretty highly touted there for a while. Obviously didn't work out in a couple of those tough years in St. Louis, so you never know, a couple more years of maturity and growing into himself as a pitcher a little bit better. I could see him putting together some good stuff, so I'm excited to see where he goes.
Yeah, definitely. You can always use a starting pitcher, especially in Dynasty.
Absolutely.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see him get picked up.
Yeah, quickly. Good to see Kyle Hart too, man. He was Shout out Kyle Hart. He was a part of the worst pitching staff of all time with the 2020 Red Sox, and went over to Korea, I think, and then came back and yeah, he's been doing pretty well for
seems to have found it a bit. There.
Yeah, that's good to see. Over to our transaction tracker, we did actually have a couple of trades this week. I was involved in both of them. I'm having a good time with trading. Our first one, I missed him being taken off the IL, so did miss 11 points for Sean Murphy. But I did send him over to Al Martinet for right-handed pitcher Sean Burke. Burke is a prospect, or recently promoted prospect in the White Sox system. I really like his profile. He's not a big strikeout guy, but just kind of pounds the zone and has that kind of deceptive stuff. So I really like that. And I feel pretty confident in Logan O'Hoppe as my catcher. So I was happy to make that trade. And I mean, Sean Murphy, who's had a pretty good start since coming back, is definitely a valuable piece to have for Martinet. I know having 2 catchers that can really hit can be really helpful, as they get more off days than a lot of other guys.
Yeah, and catchers, as we were talking about earlier when we were talking about William Contreras, they're very hard to come by. There's not a lot of great ones, not a lot of great hitting ones, I should say. Obviously, a lot of great defensive catchers in the league, but yeah, as far as fantasy goes, it's very tough to find a solid hitter at that position. So.
Big time, yeah, and even if it's just used as a trade chip down the line, like that can be pretty valuable.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, the big
one.
shebang, Ace Passon broke it. We've been working on this one. We've been working on this trade actually for several days now. But Big Peach traded me Jackson Chourio and Jung-Hoo Lee in exchange for Corbin Carroll, Tommy Edman, and JJ Weatherholt. Initially, so Peach has been looking around for some second base help. Is feeling a little let down by Spencer Steer over there, and so I did bring up Tommy Tanks. Originally, it was going to be a 1-for-1 swap, and or 2-for-2 swap, I guess I should say. Carroll and Edman for Lee and Chourio, but I think their performances at the end of the week might have brought the price up a little bit. Yeah, so we were getting a little nervous going back and forth. Did end up including JJ Weatherholt in the trade, and that kind of got it across the finish line. So I will speak on my piece. I love Jackson Chourio. I think he is young. He's got the tools to stay as an elite hitter in the league. And I talked a little bit about Jung-Hoo Lee, how much I love his kind of bat to ball stuff and, just his speed and being able to kind of bring things in that perspective. But who would you say won this trade? This kind of first real big multiplayer blockbuster in the league?
Yeah, this was a tough one, man, because I'm not even going to lie. In the vote that you put out in the Discord, I said it was an even trade because I thought both of you guys got back some really solid players each way. But if I had to pick one, I'm going to go with Peach on this one just because I think, obviously, Tommy Edman, little home sway there for me a
Tommy
bit.
Tanks.
Yeah, Tommy Tanks. That's Tommy NLCS MVP. Tommy Tanks to you, my good sir.
Excuse me.
You will address him by his full name.
Yeah.
And then obviously Corbin Carroll. I mean, he's just had a kind of surprising power surge this season. It's obviously always been a great, contact hitter, very fast, able to steal a couple of bags for you as well. But yeah, now you're adding on that power to him, man, he's very, very quickly turning around to potentially being a 5-tool player. So we'll see if he's able to continue that. Obviously talked about Tommy Tanks, has been nothing but good since joining us. And then JJ Weatherholt, I mean, it's a great prospect. He's number 21 on the MLB, top 100 prospects, another shortstop or, infielder for the Cardinals. He's currently in AA. So, kind of similar, like you were saying, to Jackson Chourio, big time bat to ball guy, has pretty great speed and athleticism. I think if, he turns into even a mini Jackson Chourio, and obviously Chourio's having a great year. I think Big Peach can come away the winner on this one, but only slightly, like I said.
Yeah. No, I mean, Peach and I were kind of joking around about it. It's a good trade when you're nervous about your guys going out the door because it means you're getting something good back, So
yeah,
I do agree. I feel like it is pretty even. I mean, Weatherholt is definitely the kind of the X factor there. He's 21 on MLB top prospects, not nothing. I will say again, I felt pretty confident where I was in my shortstop, so I was a little bit willing to take that risk, but it'll be interesting to see how he pans out. And yeah, right, as we had this trade pending, I got a notification from MLB that is some article that was like, oh, is Corbin Carroll the next great power hitter, like undersized power hitter? And I'm thinking, oh God, what have I done? But we'll see how it all turns out. But for the time being, I think both of us are feeling pretty happy, and definitely helps reinforce that second base position, which is a place of need for Peach. So we'll see how that goes next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of next week, we'll get into those notes. First off, we have the Pod Bowl. That's Zang versus Ace. The two of us does have 67% of you taking me down there.
Had that with Hideki, so
yeah,
not even gonna hold my breath.
We'll see if some of my new pieces can show out and have a good first week with me. Al Martinet versus Bose is our next one. 62% of Bose over Al Martinet there. Prius versus Mike would be our next one with 67 of Prius, again winning over Mike. In 10 versus Big Peach is our next one. Big Peaches projected to win over in 10 by about 65%. Serial Chillers versus Hideki, looking to, Chillers looking to stay undefeated there. He is projected to lose, but only at about 54% of Hideki taking him down. And then JMC versus Oki, and that's 56% of Oki winning over JMC. Before we kind of talk about ones we're looking forward to, man, 67% is the biggest projected. And look, that's not nothing, but I am just blown away by how close things are already. And keeping in mind that, that head-to-head matchup is the first tiebreaker, it'll be really, really interesting to keep an eye on, who you're close to in the standings and if you're winning those games over them.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, definitely excited to see how it plays out. Once September approaches, we kind of get a better idea of who's going to be in the postseason for our league. But yeah, I mean, I love the feeling of like real divisions. Obviously, I know there's no divisions in our league, but just that, keeping pace, somebody above you might have a better record than them. Somebody below you's got a better record than you. So it's like, just all those things you have to look out for. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just, as an example for our matchup this week, I'm 2-1, you're 1-2. And so, if you're winning there, then we're,
both 500.
We're both 500, and we're kind of going at one another. And then you have that win over me. So if we're tied near the end, so it's definitely, I'm enjoying this format a lot. But what are you looking forward to keeping an eye on this week? What matchup?
I mean, it's got to be our matchup, right? It's got to be the Pod Bowl. It's got to be. I mean, come on. I honestly, I know 67% is tied for the biggest, biggest favorite this week. Myself and Prius have that advantage over yourself and Mike respectively.
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't see that playing too much of a factor. I had a 65% chance to win last week against Hideki, and obviously we saw how that went. So it really just depends, whose week it is. But I mean, that's going to be fun to talk about next week, regardless of what happens.
Yeah. Speaking of Hideki, his matchup with Serial Chillers is the one I'm really keeping an eye on.
That was my other one as well, so I'm glad you picked it.
He's, again, really come out in a lot of our sort of like surveys and stuff. He wasn't really projected for much. He's come out swinging big time, and just seeing if Serial, how long he can keep the undefeated streak going is definitely something I'm gonna look forward to keeping a close eye on. So should be good.
Yeah, very excited for that. I'm rooting a little bit for Hideki.
Yeah,
I don't want to see anybody undefeated.
Don't want anyone to get too high. Yeah, but we'll see how that all works out, and we'll get to talk about it this time next week. So
yes, sir.
For me, Zang, and my wonderful co-host Ace Garcia, we'll see you next time.
Have a good one, guys.
You know what that makes you, Larry?
Lollygaggers.